Living Clean, Living Well is a presentation of the Canadian Centre for Abuse Awareness and is brought to you by Freedom from Addiction.
Hello everybody, I'm your host Teresa Kruze, and it is so good to be back with you again. It's been a couple of weeks, and a big thank you to my executive producer Sanderson Lang for stepping in and hosting for me. I had some business travels to do and also a pleasure trip, but I am back and ready to go to work again, so it's good to be sitting in this chair again. Tonight on Living Clean, Living Well, we're going to talk about the upcoming summer season. There is a lot going on. We've got summer festivals, we've got parties to go to, there's functions to go to, there's the cottage. So tonight we have called our show, thanks to Dr. Vera Tarman, How to Celebrate with Style and Sobriety. Would you please welcome my guest this evening, Dr. Vera Tarman, good to see you,
Teresa,
and Dee Christenson, who is the editor-in-chief of Recovery Wire magazine. Always good to see you.
Thank you. Always good to be here.
Now, we have an extra guest with us tonight on the show. We have an award. And I'm sorry, Dee, you're going to have to let us brag on you a little bit here. Dee just was presented an award from the Addiction and Mental Health group from Ontario. It is the Dr. R. Gordon Bell Journalism Award. And it says, in recognition of, okay, obviously I can't read my writing, in recognition of shattering the silence and shining a light on the crucial chronic disease of addictions and mental health. Congratulations, Dee. Are you able to tell us why you were honored in such a way? There is a little bit of a backstory.
There is
so why
a
don't you
little
fill
bit
us
of a
in?
backstory. Being from Toronto, we've received a lot of press, obviously, as the last few months regarding the mayor. And Recovery Wire took a hard stand in the beginning and decided to send a press release. And the press release essentially said that as a community of addictions, it doesn't matter who you are. Recovery Wire is for people living in recovery. And we are not a gossip journal for fallen comrades. That is not what we do. So whoever you are, if you're struggling with addiction, we're your people. And we were not going to falter on that. Apparently when we sent the press release, a lot of people in the right positions received the press release, and Dr. Bell was known as someone who was just a huge supporter in the field of addictions and a huge supporter of keeping the addiction community together. It didn't matter who you were. If you needed help, we were there for you. And so somebody felt that we were representing that aim at Recovery Wire and nominated me, so it was flattering.
Is this your first award?
It is my first journalism award. Thank you.
Well
it's
done.
very
exciting. How did it feel to get it?
I lost my marbles a little bit. Like I definitely did. I did a little goofy dance in my apartment, and you know,
the happy dance.
Yeah, it was the happy dance. You know, I did some moves. No, it was it was flattering. You know, there is no monetary gain that could match the kind of joy this brought me. You know, to be recognized in our own field as having integrity.
Yeah.
You know,
you made a statement and a stand, and you stuck behind it.
Yeah, and it was just an incredible honor. Yeah.
Well done.
Thank you.
And really well deserved, because this is a really important magazine, Recovery Wire. Just to to acknowledge that recovery is something that exists. You can actually live and thrive in recovery. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So, Dr. Tarman, speaking of journalism, you've been writing a book, a big important step. You got it sent off to the editor. Fill us in on the name of the book and when it's going to be coming out.
Well, the book is called Food Junkies, The Truth About Food Addiction, and it's really, it's going to come out in November the 28th or 9th, 2014, and hopefully we'll hit the stands or the bookshelves in January, just around the time when people are starting to think it's time to, you know, live a good life, you know, after the Christmas excess.
Yes.
Yeah. And it talks about food addiction, the definition of it, the science of it, but also it gives some real portraits of different ways that food addicts can appear.
Sure.
So that people can say, okay, that's not me, but that might be me.
Yeah.
And then also our suggested solution.
And of course, food addiction being such an important part of you, your life, and, and also your work as a medical doctor.
That's right. Yeah. And it's to me it's been a real passion of mine, because I see it as a venue, a way to express my issue about food, because food addiction is just not acknowledged in the medical or social social service field. And my hope is that at least in Canada, there'll be a vehicle to start promoting this as a viable diagnosis and need for treatment.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to make a big splash about that when it comes out. I
Yeah,
think January, you said?
That's when it's, but it actually comes out in November. Yes.
Oh, very good. We'll be looking forward to that.
Yes.
And of course, Recovery Wire magazine, we're always talking about it. You've got yourself an excellent stable of writers. Dr. Tarman's a contributor. But I always say an edgy, provocative look at the world of, addiction and sobriety, celebrating sobriety. Could you tell me, I hear that you have just got some other great writers. Who's come in?
We've moved toward being a digital-only magazine, and we weren't sure how that would go for 2014, and it's just caused an enormous explosion. Certainly our American demographic has exploded, and with that came a slew of amazing writers. The two most exciting, other than Dr. Tarman, obviously, who's one of our premier writers at the magazine, but the two newest editions we're the most proud of is Darlene Lancer, who wrote Codependency for Dummies. And right now we're reviewing a book of hers that she's coming out with on codependency and shame. She's amazing. She's appeared on some pretty stellar talk shows out there. And the other one is Terrence Shulman from the Shulman Institute. And he's,
very nice.
Terrence Shulman has appeared on Oprah. He's an amazing guy, and he talks about like spending addictions, gambling addictions, and it's just an amazing broad, like food addictions, like these are so important because they're all so interwoven, and we have this tendency in the addiction field to compartmentalize addictions, and so you're hidden in these different rooms, 12-step rooms, talking about one and then going home and feeding the other addiction, right? Yeah. So it's so important to have a place where you can decompartmentalize, where you can talk about all of it, where you can say, well, my drinking's under control, but man, I just went home to Miss Vicky's last night, and I went into a major shame spiral, so my recovery might not be where it needs to be, right?
When you say Miss Vicky's, did you mean the potato chips?
Yeah. I'm not speaking personally, of course.
No.
Yeah.
I don't even know what those are.
No. Right.
I don't think we can have a hockey game in our house without Miss Vicky's.
Right. And maybe invite Ben and Jerry. Like, it depends on the night. Depends on the night.
Or Richard D.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, we've got our panel together, and we always expect good things out of this wonderful panel because Dee shoots from the hip, don't you?
Yeah,
call a spade a spade.
Yeah, I'm a delicate flower.
And Dr. Tarman, of course, it's always great to be working with you. Our topic tonight, how to celebrate with style and sobriety. And when you think about the upcoming summer season, there's always so much going on, and there's the beer tent, and there's the bars that are, making things a lot of fun, and there's the cottage season and that sort of thing. So many places where alcohol and other substances are invited in. Let's just open it up. Yeah, your thoughts, Dr. Tarman. Why don't you lead off tonight on our subject matter, and some thoughts on getting through the upcoming party season?
Well, I'll start by just saying that I got an email in relation to this show tonight. And this was somebody who was clearly in recovery, talking about specifically the Pride, the International World Pride that's coming up. And she was talking about the difficulty that people have in recovery. And she said that I imagine, Dee, you're going to elaborate a little bit on this, but that she was saying that one of the things that was really important is that she has an exit plan. Like, she knows where she's going to go and then where she's going to be able to leave if she has to. And also that she doesn't go to something alone. But I think the thing that struck me the most in the email was that she said that because she's sober and she's having a lot of fun, she notices by, midway through, her friends are already pooped out because they're drunk. And she's like, okay, what's next? She's still ready to keep going. So clearly she's having fun, and she doesn't have to, she's good. Yeah, there's no after effect later, and yeah.
And Dee, your thoughts on our subject tonight?
I think that, you know, what's really important to mention here when it comes to festivities, celebrations, whether it's World Pride or a concert you want to go to, for me, I think what's really important is that sometimes we have the tendency when we're new to want to blend in, right? So I hear all the time where people will go to these events and they'll have a non-alcoholic beer, or they'll, you know, just, you know, get a cup of Pepsi and nobody will even know there's no rum in it. And I think what's really important here is don't try to blend in. Don't try to be you know, an anonymous drinker. Don't try to be one of those people that looks like they're actually drinking but secretly they're sober. You're sober, that's it. Like, I think there's a point where if you want to stay safe, you have to adopt a sober lifestyle. That doesn't mean you have to go over the top and shout it from the rooftops and break your anonymity all over the place. But it certainly does mean that you have to create a structure around your life that makes it safe for you to live a sober lifestyle. Because I think it's a really slippery slope. I think that if you're going to these events and you're, you know, not outwardly telling people that you don't drink, you're not creating a safe environment for yourself where you teach the world around you that this is your lifestyle, that you're setting yourself up for a fall. I think that the recidivism rates make it fairly obvious that there are some real danger zones there.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's my biggest concern for people is, you know, teach the people around you, teach the world around you, this is what it looks like sober.
Yeah.
Don't try to blend in, you know, like be sober. Like
One of the things about something like Pride, you know, like Pride is coming up at the end of the month, and one of the things that's really difficult is the events. Now I live right in Church and Wellesley, like I live right next to one of the stages, and so I can't help but see it. But if you want to go to see one of the big bands, if you want to sort of be part of it, it's virtually, they're held in beer gardens, so you have to stand in the line, you have to go through, and you know, it's just a huge big beer garden. So it's really hard to avoid alcohol. And I mean, you do have to have your kind of plan around it. You know, that's a really annoying part. Now, thankfully, in World Pride, or actually any kind of Pride event, there are sober areas. Yeah, so that's good. That's good at least.
Well, some good opening statements. It's time for our first break on Living Clean, Living Well. But when we come back, we're going to invite you into the conversation. We're going to open up our toll-free lines. As I always say, you don't have to stick to topic. This show is it's a safe haven for you. If you want to talk to my panelists about anything that's going on in your life, maybe your family member's life, Dr. Tarman and Dee Christenson will be glad to talk to you and help in any way that they can. And also, if you want to talk to us about the emerging season that's coming out and how to celebrate with style but still maintain sobriety, we'd love to hear from you. So our first break on the show, Living Clean, Living Well. We'll be right back.
It's scary to think that you're going to live the rest of your life without drugs and alcohol when it's all you've depended on. But there is hope. I knew I couldn't do it alone, and treatment allowed me the chance to ask for the help that I needed in order to believe that I could live a sober life. I got the help and support that I needed, and even now that I've left, I still have that support there.
Welcome back. My guest tonight on Living Clean, Living Well are Dr. Vera Tarman, the medical director of Renascent, and Dee Christenson, who is the editor-in-chief of Recovery Wire magazine. As always, we will take any sort of question that you have that deals with addiction, substance abuse, people in crisis. We're here. We're always here. We're picking up the phones, and you can call in and give us a call. And maybe you've got some advice for some of our callers. We've had that happen too, and I always love it because then it turns from not just us, the panel, but also a forum. So we welcome your input as well. So tonight, we have a topic, how to celebrate the upcoming summer season with style and yet sobriety. Dee Christenson brought up a really good point before we went to break. You know, you don't have to stand there with a non-alcoholic beer. You don't have to stand there with a cup of Coke or Pepsi trying to look like you're drinking an alcoholic beverage. You're right, you don't have to, but have you noticed that some people aren't comfortable if you are at their events unless you're holding something?
absolutely. Absolutely.
Like it's just like they
Absolutely.
failed as a host or hostess if they
Yeah.
haven't got something in your hand.
Right. But I would rather you adjust to that from the onset of your recovery. That's because what I find happens is that, you know, if you're faking it like you're still drinking, at some point that's a really slippery slope. You know, if you find out that you're lactose intolerant and start hanging out at a Baskin Robbins, eventually you're going to be ordering one of the 32 flavors. That's my theory,
that's
right?
one of the reasons why I have a real problem with this e-cigarettes, just to throw the
Yeah,
topic
yeah.
completely off. Is
I
you're not,
absolutely agree.
You're still smoking,
Yes.
and you still got that in your
The
mind.
oral fixation,
Yeah,
it's the
exactly.
same. Yeah, I
Yes.
think at some point you need to address the challenges to living a sober lifestyle. If that's scary to do alone, then use your community, then
Yeah.
double up. Like then utilize all of the strengths and resources that are available to you.
So Dee, I'm just going to put you on the spot here. When somebody comes up and says, hey, what can I get you to drink tonight? What do you say?
Usually I say a Perrier or a bottle of water. I'm comfortable ordering a bottle of water because I like to have the cap on it.
Yeah.
I'm mostly a recovering drug addict, so I have a real fear if someone ever puts something in my drink. So I like to have a bottle of water because they always give you the cap. They'll open it for you in front of you, but you can actually have the cap and carry it with you all night. And then people know she's drinking water.
Yeah.
That's it. They know. If they think I'm lame, they know it from a mile away and they leave me alone. Usually they, you know, the people that have an issue and want to be around drinkers will avoid me like the plague anyway. Like I'm not their kind of people and they're not my kind of people, so it's no longer even an issue.
Yeah,
you
because
know?
usually people who drink are looking for other drinkers.
Yeah,
so
nobody
that they
wants
can
to drink
hang
around
out
a
with
sober
that.
person.
Yeah, it's like-
Exactly.
yeah.
But you're a lot of fun.
I know. I can't
Why would you
believe
say
it.
that? Nobody wants to hang out with a sober person.
Well, I mean, when I was using, the last thing I wanted to do was hang out with someone who was drinking a bottle of water. Like, you're ruining my buzz.
Yeah.
Like, you're wrecking my buzz,
you're
right?
Not, you're not on the same wavelength.
You're
yeah.
not on the same page as me, so it's just...
You don't find the jokes as stupid, and,
Yeah,
and stupid jokes are very funny. When
yeah. So, you know, you find your own commonality, you know? I think that you migrate toward like-minded people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
so if the wrong people are rejecting you, take it as a good sign you're headed in the right direction, right? Yeah.
All right, well, let's head into the direction of our telephones tonight. Let's go to line 4. Ivan's calling in from Cambridge. Hi there, Ivan. You're live on our show. You're our first caller. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Okay, I've been sober for 10 months. Tomorrow I'll be 10 months for me.
Well done, Ivan. Way to go.
I'm very happy. Everything happened nice to me since I quit. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, yes, we can hear you. So you've been sober now for 10 months, and you're really happy how things are going.
Oh, yeah. I'm very happy. Life is going nice to me.
Good. Wonderful. We're talking tonight about getting through the summer season. If you've been sober for 10 months, then I guess maybe it could be a bit of a challenge. Have you thought about how you're going to get through the parties and the barbecues and things like that? Have you got a plan?
No problem with that. I went to people that drink, and I didn't feel like drinking at all.
Oh, that's good. Did you have a question for my panel tonight, or did you just call in so that we could celebrate you?
Yeah,
Yeah?
yeah.
Well, you know what, Ivan, I'm so glad that you picked up the phone tonight. I'm glad to hear that everything's going well.
Congratulations, Ivan.
Yeah, what a way to start out the show.
great.
A success story.
Awesome.
10 months. Ivan, keep it going. Thanks so much. Let's now go to line 1. Val's from Kingston tonight. Hi there, Val. You're live on the show with Dr. Tarman and Dee Christenson. Go ahead.
Hi, I have a comment for the doctor tonight.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'm a recovering alcoholic. I've been sober for 2 years. And I started out my #1 addiction with food, so it was really nice to hear the doctor talk about her book coming out, and I'm really looking forward to buying it and reading about it because it's not talked about very often. And I suffer in silence with that addiction every day still, recovering from alcoholism. The food thing is an everyday thing that I still struggle with.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure it's going to be a bestseller because there's a lot of people. Every time we've done a show on food addiction, it's been so well received, and we've had a lot of people call in, and sometimes even Two, I wonder whether or not I don't have a food addiction. I'm always looking for a little bit of information. I'm a comforter with food.
Yeah.
You know, when I'm upset
That's
or
right.
whatever, that's my comfort.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you know, that food addiction, like, there are some foods that are just addictive. You don't have to be a food addict to be addicted to some foods, or not addicted, but, I mean, the compulsion, like, the food industry has made it very easy to become addicted to foods. But there is a line at which a person can draw, go over, where they end up depending on food and exhibiting some of the same behaviors. And, you know, Val, you're talking about your history of alcoholism. I mean, that's such a very common one, because you probably see a lot of the same behaviors in food and addiction. And it's my experience. I mean, Val, are you still on the line?
I'm here. I'm listening. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's my experience that if you don't address the one addiction, then the other is still sitting there in the background. And have you tried to address both of those addictions, like using the same tools?
I definitely have. I had a gastric bypass surgery actually to address the food addiction, and that's when I added alcohol into the scene.
Oh,
and
wow.
got out of hand, yeah.
Did you know, Val, that people who have a gastric bypass or any kind of a bariatric surgery are more at risk of becoming an alcoholic?
I didn't know that until after. I had no counseling until afterwards, and now I'm well aware.
That's really an interesting connection there.
We've never had that on the show before.
Yeah.
That's new information.
Yeah, and it's got to do with the fact that you absorb the alcohol more quickly. It goes through the bloodstream more quickly. You don't have the same enzymes to break it down, so you're already at risk. And then if you've already got a history of addiction behind you, then it's just another addiction, like Dee said, that is just waiting to pop up. So, I mean, good for you for recognizing it. And when the book comes out, if you want to be part of the team to make this a larger public issue, because we won't get treatment until it's acknowledged as an issue. I bet you're having a hard time getting treatment.
Oh, yeah. Can't wait for your book.
That's right. And it won't happen until we actually say, look, this is an issue, and let's make this a diagnosis that demands treatment.
You know, and I'm just going to go right on the line here right now. When this book comes out, let's knock this out of the park.
Yeah.
Let's take this forward and let's get it out there once and for all. And your book can lead the way.
Yeah, to me the book is really just a vehicle, because whenever I've wanted to do talks and stuff, people say, well, do you have a book? You have the same experience, right? With your stuff, with your book. And so it's like the book is there, it's a vehicle, and Val, thank you for bringing because it's voices like yours that other people will go, right, it's not just me, Val just mentioned it, and you know, it's me too, and Teresa, there you are saying something, like once people start talking about it and it's no longer this embarrassing thing, then, and you know, filled with shame, then others will say yes, and then we'll finally have a momentum. So yes, Teresa, I'm all over it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll get something going in January. And Val, thank you so much for validating what it is that we're doing, and your work as well, because you know we always promote your talks on food addiction, and it's resonating. It's ringing a bell with a lot of people. Dee, with your work with Recovery Wire magazine, what are you finding with food addiction?
We did the first article that Dr. T ever did for us was called "Finally Sober, Suddenly Fat."
Yeah.
And the responses from that article were enormous, because I find a lot of people will get sober and then a year later they'll be, I see morbidly obese people in AA all the time, or in CA or NA.
It's so
common.
It's kind of how we met, because you wanted to talk to me about writing, and you said you've got this great title, but you hadn't written the article, and I said I love that title, and I've written the article.
Perfect. Yeah, it was kismet, but it was such a, because food and substances create the same romance. They want to keep you isolated, they keep you from wanting, like I can actually get so excited about going home to food that I'll give up social time with people to rotate through my personal food groups. You know, the savories, the sweets, like it's, you know, and drugs used to do the same thing. So perpetuating that, you know, it's very dangerous to keep that going. So it was imperative that we talk about it, and she's the driving force behind it as far as I'm concerned in Canada.
Can I just say, Val, if you're still listening, if you go on my website, addictionsunplugged.com, you can actually find, I do have a DVD lecture on the subject, so it's there. I just wanted to plug myself there,
Absolutely,
if you don't mind.
please do. So, folks, we're going to take another short break here on Living Clean, Living Well, but when we come back, we're going to have more from my panel and more from you as well. We're starting to get a good lineup of phone calls, and that always makes us happy because we like to share. So another short break, and we'll come back with more from Dr. Tarman and Dee Christenson.
I've been through multiple treatment centers with my addiction, fighting it for the last 10 years, 17 detoxes, 3 different treatment centers. But they put me into counseling and everything here after my detox, which was the smartest thing I could have ever done. I got the real demons out of me that I wasn't able to do over the last 10 years with all those other detoxes, all those other treatment centers, from private ones to government ones. And this place has actually given me my life back.
Hello. I'm Ellen Campbell, the CEO and founder of the Canadian Centre for Abuse Awareness. As a charity, we depend on viewers such as yourself to support the programs for First Nations, women and children, anti-bullying, and elder abuse. I invite you to visit our website, see what you can do to share. Any donation over $20 will receive a tax receipt. Thank you so much for all your support.
Welcome back, everybody, to Living Clean, Living Well. I'm your host, Teresa Kruze. It's good to be back with you after I've been off for a couple of weeks. Dr. Vera Tarman from Renaissance joins us tonight, along with Dee Christenson from Recovery Wire magazine. And you folks are joining us as well. Let's head back to those phone lines. Line 3, and Lisa's calling in tonight from Kitchener. Hi there, Lisa. You're on our show. Thanks for waiting, hon. Go ahead.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for taking my call.
Oh, you're welcome.
A question for the doctor. 30 years ago, they put me on a Xanax 0.5 milligram.
Yep.
They said it was non-addictive at the time.
Oh, my God.
Been on it for 30 years.
Yep.
I'm with a therapist now, and for the last, quite a few years, she's been weaning me off of it.
Wow.
So I'm down to like 1/3 of what I used to be on for years.
Okay.
But she, a while ago, prescribed this for sleeping Seroquel, I believe is how you pronounce it.
Yes.
She said, please give it a chance, because she's tried antidepressants, and it doesn't work. I suffer from panic and anxiety attacks. The Seroquel is giving me really nightmares, and I can't get my eyes open. I know I'm in my bed, can't get my eyes open, and I'm trying to scream out for somebody. They're terrible nightmares. She was saying they could work together. I don't think it's working.
Well, Lisa, one of the things, like you were told 30 years ago that Xanax is not addictive. I mean, we know now that it's one of the most addictive of these drugs. They're called benzodiazepines for the viewers. The reason why is because it's so short-acting, and it's not the last thing that a person would prescribe now, with the exception of when you want something right when a panic attack is happening. So unfortunately, you got caught in a generation when people were prescribing and just didn't know. And the fact that it's taken you so long to wean down, for some people, it is really hard to get off of these drugs. Your nightmares and some of the experience that you're having could still be part of the withdrawal of the Xanax. Or it could be the contribution with the Seroquel, which is not a benzodiazepine, it's an antipsychotic. And it won't give you the same effect as a benzodiazepine. In fact, it unfortunately makes people feel quite drowsy, and it can affect sleep. So what is your question specifically about that?
Well, I'm afraid she's going to tell me to hang in and keep taking it, but the nights that I don't take it, I don't have this horrible feeling.
No, Lisa, you have every right to say this drug is not working for me, we need to try something else. You have every right to say that. You don't have to take something that makes you feel uncomfortable. Some people don't do well on Seroquel. They get really agitated and a restless feeling in their legs, and that's not helping you sleep. What she probably doesn't want you to do is stop something abruptly, but you have the right as a patient to say, this is not working, let's look for something else. Have you?
And I've heard about Valium withdrawal therapy.
I'm sorry?
I've heard about Valium withdrawal therapy as a replacement.
Yeah, actually, that would probably be reasonable because it's a longer acting drug, and then you can cut that down even more. Yeah, you could. You have every right to suggest that too, by the way. Anyway, did you?
No, just that it's so not uncommon that I've heard that about Seroquel. I've had so many sponsees where I've tried to do step work with them in the beginning and they're nodding out because they've been placed on Seroquel. So it's a really common one.
And you know, Seroquel is like the #1 prescribed drug in America right now, in Canada and the U.S., because it's a sedating drug. It's used for sleep, it's used for anxiety, it's used for psychosis, it's used for so many things. It has lots of negative side effects, so your doctor won't be surprised.
I'm just wondering, though, do we need to temper it for somebody that may be on Seroquel right now that it's working fine for?
Oh, that's right, for sure.
Does that happen, or is it just bad all around?
No. It's a very. The reason why it's prescribed so widely is that it does have a strong profile where it's helpful for anxiety. It's better to take, I think, than a drug like a benzodiazepine, like your Xanax. In a sense, it's the lesser of two evils, but there is a small subpopulation where it drives them nuts. And you may well find that there's another antipsychotic that you can tolerate better than Seroquel. Or you probably tried the antidepressants like trazodone. I mean, there's other drugs you can take that will help you. She's trying to find something to replace the Xanax. But you're right, the Valium long-term breaking down, the Valium taper is not a bad idea. Yeah.
Antidepressants just make me worse. She's tried like Paxil, Surzone. I'm trying to remember the names.
Yeah. It's not easy. It's not easy getting off of Xanax or any benzodiazepines.
But we've done to Lisa. She's down to 1/3 of what she was taking.
Yes.
So you're getting there.
Yeah.
And there is a day when people can say I'm Xanax free.
Yeah, there is a day, and you might actually decide that being on 1/3 is actually okay. There's no reason, unless you feel uncomfortable, to not stay exactly where you are if it's not keeping, if it's not affecting your life detrimentally and it's helping your anxiety. It is okay. It's really up to you. Yeah.
Thank you very much for that insight, Lisa. I sure hope that helps. Stick with our show as well. Please call back in and let us know how you're doing. Let's go now to line 4, and calling in tonight from Caledon is Joe. Hi there, Joe. You're live on the air with Dr. Tarman and Dee Christenson. Go ahead.
Hi there. I watch your show every week, and it's quite interesting. Here's what I have. I'm in a lot of pain all the time, and I've been taking OxyContin for about 10 years, about 4 a day, and also a fentanyl patch. And I just been going on and on with it, and I find it's been just sucking the life out of me. And I've noticed on your show you say that you go to a detox for about a week, but what I'm interested in is after that you should go to like a 28-day or 60 to 90-day program, and I wonder what you actually do there, because I've seen a program on TV and the people go in look like crap and then they come out looking extremely healthy. Like, I don't know what they do to turn this miracle around, but I'm kind of interested in what happens at that point after the detox.
Well, Joe, the first week is basically detox, and whether you go into a rehab or you go into a detox, that's what you're doing, is you're detoxing. And if you've been on OxyContin for 4 a day and fentanyl, unfortunately, it's going to take longer than a week. It might even take 2 or 3 weeks. But then once you hit rehab, it's actually, that's when you learn how to live so that you stay sober. It's actually not about getting off the drug, which you're going to have to do first. It's how to stay sober after. And they teach you tools, they teach you, I mean, Dee, you can probably talk a little bit more about this.
Did you go into detox?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I hope we're not stepping over any boundaries.
No, you know me. Bring it on. It's fine.
That's why we love having
Joe,
you
I
on.
got to tell you, the first 2 weeks, buddy, it's a moment-to-moment thrill ride. But if it can't be any worse than sustaining this kind of like mediocrity for a long period of time. There is a light at the end of that tunnel. And the importance of treatment, it's so important because it's the first time that, for one thing, you're around other people like you. Yeah. It builds a sense of community. The other thing is they wake you up in the morning, they teach you how to eat proper food. They actually create a structure around you while you're trying to get yourself adjusted to not being on substances. And you really need that support in the first little while. You go into talk therapy in a group with other people where you get to talk about about what's going on, how you got there. You do writing therapy. It's a lot of different things. And we all take different things away from it. I can't say that I remember terribly all of the talk therapy. And, you know, I remember sitting with a bunch of other drunks and addicts watching this movie called Green Thumbs. But I remember sitting with my people on this sofa, not feeling alone. You know, for one of the first moments of my life, I sat on this goofy leather sofa in this treatment center with all these other recovering alcoholics. Some were like stockbrokers, some were like, you know, garbage men. And we all sat and watched this movie together as a team. Like we all were facing the same thing. And that really resonated for me. It made me feel like I was never going to have to be alone in this feeling again. And, you know, I wish that for you.
Yeah. The other thing, Joe, is that you said that when people go in, they look awful, and when they come out, they look great. I mean, one of the things is once you've gotten through that first hump of detox, I mean, you're finally eating, you're finally sleeping, and I have to tell you that, I mean, I work at a residential center where it's only 3 weeks, and even after 3 weeks, the second week, people are saying, I have been stoned or drunk for the last 40 years, not one day of sobriety. I can't believe how good I feel. This is even after the second or third week. It's like, I can't believe how physically good I feel. I've gained 20 pounds, and they needed to gain the 20 pounds. And I can't believe how like, happy. I'm laughing. I've never laughed this much. You know, that would be great. But then you learn the tools so that you can take that with you when you leave.
And is this at Renaissance that you were talking about?
Yes.
So that's a great facility.
That's right.
Two others that I'd like to tell you about, Joe. Our sponsor here is Freedom from Addiction. I was by to visit their facility, and we've also had their doctor, Dr. Gupta, on our show. And we were talking about, they have one specialized area that's their detox area. And it's, you've got nurses there 24/7. You're never alone. And Dr. Gupta's there quite a bit as well, and he's trying to make you, he told us, he tries to make you feel as comfortable as possible. Because it's not a comfortable feeling to go through detox, is it? No. So they're going to do it medically. And that's always wise, right, Dr. Tarman? I always hear you say, don't try to detox on your own, right, Dee? And also Turning Point Detox out of the Hamilton area, Joe, is another great friend of this show. They were a longtime sponsor of ours, and I know that they have had great success. So 2 resources and 3 resources there with Renaissance as well. So now let's go on to line 2, and Gary's been waiting patiently. He's on the line tonight from Brockville. Hi there, Gary. It's your turn. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, panel. How are you doing? Yes, I've having these issues with, I get so sad and upset and feel very depressed and taking like a drug overdose to take the pain away, but I really have to fight, and I've fought this many, many times, and I just went through an episode that it was pretty close to do that, and I just really decided not to because my dad and mom and the family know what has happened to me before, and so I have to really promise not to overdose, but it's really hard. And
are you under the care of a physician right now?
I was even thinking of starting to drink too because of the depression, and being anxious was really, really strong.
Are you under the care of a doctor right now, Gary?
No, not. I was going to be sometime tomorrow to call and hopefully to have somebody that would talk me through and help me out with these situations. Yeah, I should, yes.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it sounds to me like from what you're describing, just from the tone of your voice, as well as some of the things that you've said, that you might be suffering from a depression or maybe an anxiety disorder. Certainly if you have suicidal thoughts. I mean, are you having any right now?
No, I'm pretty well over that right now. It's just really super sensitive towards different issues that come up, and
Yeah.
I just don't really know what to do. It's
well, you know, part of the problem is if you're actually in an episode of being depressed, an acute episode of depression, you're not likely to know what to do because the depression really fogs your ability to know what to do. That's why it's really a good idea to seek the care of a physician. If you get on an antidepressant, that might give you the clarity that you need to know for the next step. When you're in this kind of a place, you can't really count on yourself. I mean, you're the last person you want to count on right now. You really ought not to be alone with this. So if you've got that ability to call somebody tomorrow, I would really urge that you do that.
Dee, did you want to talk to Gary?
I just, you know, I really feel for you, Gary. I'm always cautious to say I know how it feels, but I live with, I don't call it depression anymore because it's certainly been lifted to a point where it's manageable in my life. But I do know what it is to feel that kind of darkness and that kind of weight. And I completely agree with the notion that you can't trust yourself. When the darkness is that thick, there are a lot of things that we need to do to remain functional and to remain near the surface so that we don't sink. Those things aren't easy to do when you're in the thick of it, and you sound like you're in the thick of it right now. And the best thing I could do is to not be alone, to be around other people that felt the way I did, whether it's getting into a dual diagnosis program or getting in touch with your physician, going to a treatment program, an outpatient facility, but being around other people that know what it's like.
Right, don't isolate. That's
Absolutely, yeah, because that's really what it wants you to do. Like the feeling makes me want to be at home alone, curled up somewhere, overeating, drinking, whatever I can do in order to sustain that level of numbness. But it isn't numb, isn't it? Eventually we get to that place where it's really dark again.
And I just want to say one thing, Gary. You said that you might want to drink, and I just want to emphasize that drinking actually makes depression worse. So don't. If you're going to do something, call somebody tomorrow. Don't pick up a drink.
So Dee, you had some great suggestions for Gary, but let's put our thinking caps on right now. He's needed to reach out to somebody tomorrow. Dr. Tarman, could you tell us who would be a good source, a resource, a company, a group, someone that he could reach out to?
I mean, the first thing I think about, but it's in Toronto, is the Gerstein Center.
Gerstein Center?
There's the crisis line. There's just the emergency department to see a psychiatrist. And those are some immediate options there. Yeah.
Gary, does that help? Does that give you some ideas or options that you might be able to try tomorrow when you get up and you're going to pick up the phone?
Yes. Is there any medication that people in these type of troubles can take to really just say, I'm feeling really good today. These problems are really just coming up like this all the time, and it's just more or less just to keep you really happy and just mellow, and it just keeps those feelings and thoughts at a low level.
Yeah, well, the medication doesn't actually make you feel happy, but it does make your moods less large, so that the highs and the lows are not so big, and especially not the lows, so that when you are low, you're able to still do things that you need to, like the things that Dee is talking about. You know, so that you're not caught with the enormity and the darkness of what you're feeling. I mean, that's just antidepressants, and if you actually seek out help, like if you go to an emergency tomorrow and say exactly what you said tonight, they'll get you a psychiatrist and they'll probably prescribe something for you, even if it's short term. So there is help, and there's help tomorrow if you take that step.
Yeah, and there's people that care as well, Gary. You said that you had family members that care an awful lot about you and love you, and you know, just to know that there's that support around you and to draw on it where you can. But I think Dr. Tarman's right. You should reach out tomorrow and go and see. There's medicine available, and there's professional help.
Even if you don't want to do the emergency, even a walk-in clinic, you just tell them what you told us. Yeah.
Good. So even a walk-in clinic. Okay, yeah. Gary, please stay in touch with us. I'm glad that we were here for you to be able to pick up the phone tonight, and I'm so glad that you shared, because that's the first step. So thank you. I have to take another short break here on Living Clean, Living Well, but when we come back, more of your phone calls.
It's scary to think that you're going to live the rest of your life without drugs and alcohol when it's all you've depended on. But there is hope. I knew I couldn't do it alone, and treatment allowed me the chance to ask for the help that I needed in order to believe that I could live a sober life. I got the help and support that I needed, and even now that I've left, I still have that support there.
Hello, I'm Ellen Campbell, the CEO and founder of the Canadian Centre for Abuse Awareness. As a charity, we depend on viewers such as yourself to support the programs for First Nations, women and children, anti-bullying, and elder abuse. I invite you to visit our website, see what you can do to share. Any donation over $20 will receive a tax receipt. Thank you so much for all your support.
Statistics state that it is likely you know a victim of abuse. It could be a friend, a relative, a colleague. It could even be you. 1 in 3 girls and 1 in 5 boys will be sexually abused before they reach the age of 18. Please give them hope. Help us make it stop. Go to abusehurts.com and give to the Canadian Centre for Abuse Awareness.
Welcome back to Living Clean, Living Well. Dr. Vera Tarman from Renaissance, she's the medical director there, is one of our guests this evening. She's a regular contributor. And also Dee Christenson, the editor-in-chief of Recovery Wire magazine. They have gone digital, and folks, you can get your free copy. Dee, tell them how they do that.
They can visit our website at recoverywiremagazine.com, and they can see any one of our back issues at any moment. You could be reading the entire series tonight if you wanted to.
But some great articles in there as well.
Amazing. Really, they're all really practical.
Yeah.
They're all really usable. None of it is gossip journal. It's all really practical and applicable recovery talk.
How long have you guys been publishing now?
Oh my gosh, it's been almost 2 years now.
I know.
It seems impossible. Yeah.
Recovery Wire magazine is also a great friend of Living Clean, Living Well, and we say thank you.
Yes.
Let's go back to our phone lines. Let's go to line 1. Ken, calling in tonight from Ottawa. Ken, thanks for your patience. Go ahead.
Yes, good evening, ladies. How are you this evening?
Good. Doing great. Go ahead, Ken. We want to hear how you are.
I'm doing pretty well. I have a question, though.
Go ahead.
I am 16 months plus in recovery of clean and sober time. And I'm struggling right now with living life on life's terms. The highs are really high, and the lows are really low. And there's resentments that build up with the lows. And I'm struggling with the lows and trying to get through that. It's been more difficult by immediate family members. I feel like they're raining on my parade when they're doing things that are causing me a lot of stress.
Do you have any, are you seeing a therapist, or are you going to any 12-step meetings that will help you with some of these resentments?
Yeah, there's a lady I see on a weekly basis.
Good.
I've talked to my sponsor, but I've talked to some members of the fellowship in AA, but the highs are high and the lows are low, and it's tough when the lows are low.
Have you seen a psychiatrist or a doctor about any I don't know, to talk about that specifically? Because I mean, if you were given a diagnosis that there might be medication that would help that.
Oh, I'm already having medication, and I've already been to a number of doctors, and currently taking medication.
So it sounds like you've got your sort of all of your angles covered, but you're still having difficulty.
Yeah, the highs are highs and the lows are lows. Living life on life terms.
Yeah, yeah.
Can I?
Yep, please do.
Jump in.
So when I hear highs are highs and lows are lows, do you remember the first time that you read about step 2? There is a little adage in one of the programs that talks about the notion that we sort of see the universe or God, whatever you want to call it, as Santa Claus. that we see that when good things happen, it's like Santa Claus. We see that's the way the universe works, that it's like you're being granted wishes. And then when you don't get those wishes, then you're being punished somehow. And I find that when I hear someone who's as new as you are talking about really high highs and really low lows, what that says to me is that it's likely that it's not as much of an internal job as it could be. For me, when I don't work really hard on my spiritual program, and what that means for me is meditation, it means gratitude lists, it means focusing on ways to enjoy my life and to gain satisfaction despite whether good or bad things are happening in my life. But if I'm feeding into all the outward circumstances in my life to fill that void, then I will live a life of high highs and low lows because I am a victim of circumstance. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Yeah, I figured. Because we all know what it's like, right? Because that's what drugs and alcohol did for us. So we will mimic that. We will recreate the scene of that crime without even thinking about it. But we have to choose not to, even though it's easy to fall into that cycle.
Ken, thank you so much for calling in, reaching out. I hope that this insight's been helpful. I'd love to spend some more time with you, but I'm racing for time and I've got a few more phone calls to get through. Please make sure that you come back again. We'll be here again next Sunday. And give us a call back in a little bit earlier on in the show, and I'm sure that my guests would love to talk to you as well. And let's see where you are at that point as well. Let's now go to line 4, and Ron's calling in tonight from our nation's capital, Ottawa. Ron, it's your turn. Go ahead. Hey, Ron, are you there? Okay, folks, I have to tell you, if you're watching television, you can't listen to us on the TV because there's a delay. If I could just get Nikki, our director, to put Ron on hold, let's see whether or not our wonderful call screener, Denise, can be talking to him, and we'll try to get Ron back on the air. Now let's go to line 2. Diana's calling in from BC. Hi, Diana. Good to hear from you tonight. Go ahead.
I've had fibromyalgia for the last 2 years. I'm a recovering alcoholic for 4 years, and I haven't had a problem with that. And the pain was so severe, I had to be on the oxys. And I feel like they're starting to take over. I've got brain fog from the fibromyalgia, but it's getting so severe with, I believe the oxys are doing it too. I've been told that when you take oxys for a long time, your pain might go away, but the oxys make you feel like you're still in pain. So I'd like to get off of them totally, and I'm just really worried, wondering how long I'd have to be somewhere because I can't leave my mom very long.
Oh. Well, you know, you don't actually have to, if you're on oxys, there's a couple of approaches that you can take. You can just taper down slowly and you don't have to go anywhere for that. I mean, when we talk about you going somewhere, Diana, that would mean that you want to detox abruptly and stop, but that's not the only way to do that. And the other option is that you can take something like methadone or Suboxone, which will avoid that whole withdrawal process. You can do that outpatient, and then you can work down slowly from there. So, I mean, there's other options that can be outpatient and that don't have to be painful.
Are you able to regulate the amount that you take?
I do. I'm I regulate it totally. I have 8 of the white ones a day, and then I have 60 milligrams in the morning and 60 at night.
Now, you know, the other thing, Diane, is that fibromyalgia, I mean, I don't know if you're doing other stuff, but there are other things, natural things that you can do to help counteract the pain of fibromyalgia. Exercise program, swimming program, different types of dietary. So keep that in mind as well. Like you're not regulated to have to take oxys, and you're quite right when you say that if you've been on oxys for a while, that there is a tendency to actually feel more pain because of them. So when you get off of them, you might find that your fibro is not as bad as you're feeling it when you're coming off of. Because when you miss the dose or something, the pain is going to be even worse because of the withdrawal. So I've had people say when they finally got off their oxys, oh my God, my arthritis is nothing like I thought it would be. It's actually not that bad. I can handle it with all of the other lifestyle options.
So should she be under the care of her physician
Absolutely.
if she's tapering?
Yeah, you want
Make
to
sure
be
you
under
let
the
them
care,
know.
yes, because and there is a way to do it medically that doesn't have to be painful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Diana, thank you so much for calling in tonight. I hope that's helpful. Let's now go to line 3. Dave's calling in tonight from Midland. Dave, it looks like you're going to be our final call of the show. Go ahead.
Hi, how are you?
We're doing well. Always good to hear your wonderful voice.
Oh, thank you. I was just reading an article in the Toronto Star from yesterday. It says using drugs to treat alcohol addiction, and they're talking about there's a couple of drugs that reduce the frequency and the severity of relapse. I was just wondering what Dr. Tarman and Dee think about that.
Oh, okay, I'll just say quickly, have you had any experience taking drugs to get off drug? Yeah.
Alcohol.
Yeah. Okay. There's two ones that come to mind immediately. There's a drug called Vera or naltrexone, which when you take it, you don't get the same euphoric buzz, and so therefore you don't really want to take the drug. And there's another one called Camprol, and that one too, it cuts the cravings. And then, of course, there's always the standard antabuse. If you take the drug, you'll feel so wretched you won't want to take it. None of those drugs are enough, though. They might help, but you've got to be doing something else as well. And I don't know, Dee, if you want to add something to that.
Well, I mean, addiction is an obsession. It's an obsession of the mind.
And those
So
drugs
whatever
don't-
whatever you're doing medically or biologically isn't going to change that. If you're not working on the idea, on the notion of overcoming the obsession of the mind and doing all the things that I do in order to achieve that, then it doesn't really matter whether or not the physical craving goes away.
It's just the same as smoking. Like if
Exactly.
if you're just expecting that drug is going to make the craving for smoking go away, no. But if you've made the decision, it's an aid. It helps.
Exactly.
But you have to have made the decision
Yeah,
and
agreed.
do all of the actions.
And you were going to follow up with a comment about those drugs don't help with the obsession? Is that what you
yeah,
were
they
going to
don't
say?
help the obsession, but
Yeah.
they help a little bit. But the obsession is powerful.
Yeah.
It is overriding. I mean, it's ruined your life.
And it's more
no
than biological, way more than biological.
Absolutely.
We make room for these things in our lives.
Social,
we change
it's
the way.
psychological.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
That's right.
deep-rooted.
You know, we've got about a minute left, but we've had a lot of phone calls tonight about taking drugs to help with other issues, haven't we? Your thoughts on that? Good, bad? I mean, you're a physician.
No, I mean, I don't think it's a good idea. I think that drugs at best should be a temporary bridge, and if you need that bridge, but you have to do the things that Dee is talking about, because drugs are just not powerful enough. This is far more powerful. These things can help, but you've got to do the action.
You have to do the work, right, Dee?
Yeah, you have to do the work.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it is a heck of a lot easier to go to a physician and get a pill, I'll tell you that, than do all the things that...
But you get disappointed.
Yeah, but the reality is, it's my life and my recovery, so
Yeah.
I want to work harder than that, yeah.
Well, we're going to take our final break here on Living Clean, Living Well, but don't go away. We have got our final thoughts from my panelists. You've been watching Dr. Vera Tarman and Dee Christenson. We'll be right back after this short message.
I've been through multiple treatment centers with my addiction, fighting it for the last 10 years, 17 detoxes, 3 different treatment centers. But they put me into counseling and everything here after my detox, which was the smartest thing I could have ever done. I got the real demons out of me that I wasn't able to do over the last 10 years with all those other detoxes, all those other treatment centers, from private ones to government.